Hey, good morning and welcome everyone. It is March 24th, 2026. It is our 9 o'clock board briefing meeting. Let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners that are present: Commissioner Jordan, Commissioner Waldorf, Commissioner Kearns, and Commissioner Brooks. We are striking a couple items from our agenda this morning. So 2A and 2B, we are striking. And we will then just continue on and go. So we're going to be a little ahead of schedule on those 3 items. So Under Sheriff Kevin Ritchie, if you want to come up. And people are welcome to either sit there or, oh, they can't sit. Okay.
Mic is on. All right. Good morning. I have just something really quick here. It's our annual STOP grant award from the state. This is the annual award we get with the Spokane Police Department for providing some training money for our domestic violence detectives for combating crimes against women. This year, we're receiving $5,760 as a subrecipient from the SPD's award, Spokane Police Award, sorry. So I'm just requesting that the board allow us to accept the money so we can send our detectives to the training that they do every year.
Any questions? No, I know this is under the threshold that Scott likes to have us look at, but again, I think this is a reason why we need to be bringing these forward to the commissioners and having us approve them. And so I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I'd like to keep you, up to date on what we're doing and stuff. So yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then that's going to take us to Chief Hooper.
Oh, over here. I've got my whole team, so let's see, we brought everybody, so I have some questions.
Yeah, just make sure you turn on the mics.
Push. Should show good. All right. How about this one? Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Well, good morning. So we are here to brief the board on a renewal for the contract using the SPD range. As you know, last year we came in front of you and decided to not move forward with SPD and try to use all of our, use the sheriff's office range for all of our training time. Just not enough time available in the day. So we've been doing our training after 6 o'clock at night at the range and on Saturdays. Just not enough hours. So it's extending our new hire training as well as our in-service training. So we're just asking to renew a partial contract with SPD so we use both ranges. So that's, we can go through the PowerPoint if you'd like, but that's really long and short of it. It's about $7,000 a year, about $7,000 a year for us to use Spokane Police Department's range up to 48 times. And we project we needed about 42 times to get through training all of our existing staff as well as all of our new hires. So.
Yeah, and I'm just assuming, the range is well used with Fairchild. They've got
with Fairchild and the sheriff's
70%, and then the sheriff's office. So
yeah.
That makes sense. And so are you having to experience overtime to go evenings?
Quite a bit. We have, I can't think Cam has the numbers, but I think by using Spokane Police Department range, we can save around
upwards of $26,000 if we were to do everything at Spokane Police Department's range. We do plan on using both. We do have some trainings that are scheduled out at the training center here in the next couple of weeks as we transition to a new firearm platform for our custody staff. So we are using it when it's available for us. With that, we were allowed, Spokane PD allowed us to use their range without a contract for one of our classes because the Air National Guard is using the range on a Saturday that we needed. So just having that additional option will help us be able to get training scheduled appropriately and timely.
one of the differences with corrections versus law enforcement officers are trained at their academy, all their initial firearms training. We train all of ours. They're not trained at the academy. So we need 80 hours for every new hire groups, and we're hiring 3 or 4 groups a year. So we actually have just as much demand as the sheriff's office on that range. So.
Sounds like this will pay for itself.
Yeah, I agree. But,
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have some updates on policy as well. We were in front of you in, I believe, October, asking me changing the process on how we have policies in front of you to approve. So right now we've got what we're trying to do is like manageable, digestible amounts. But even this has, I don't know, 15 or 16 pages of policies. I think you all received them in the last few weeks. And so at least our thought process now is maybe get in front of you every quarter until we're caught up on all the policy updates.
I think so.
Okay, because originally, I think we proposed that I would just sign off on policies. The board wasn't comfortable with that at that time, so that we present every 3 months, bring them in front of you, get them in front of you a week or a few weeks ahead of time, and then we just answer questions, right? Or we can go down and go through each policy if you'd like.
So this seems like this is a bigger policy update than we've seen, right?
We're going to have, we have a number of outstanding policies, so we'll probably be in front of you every 3 months with this amount each until we're caught up, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, we're probably looking at 5 to 7 policies each session to get approved. And so what we plan on doing is sending those out a couple of weeks in advance, give you guys a chance. We emailed out the Lexipol logon to your assistants. That way, if you want to compare the updates to the existing policy, you can do that prior to the discussion. And then, of course, any emerging policies that come out based on that 2015 resolution, Chief Cooper can still approve those, get them active, and then we'll get those to the board as soon as possible for approval. And then, of course, the quarterly updates, because we are looking at about 31 pending policies right now that do need updates. And then maybe we can switch to that 6-month, which we talked about back in October, where we do a couple policy updates per year. So.
Okay. Any questions? I guess I'd ask just to, we have it, but just to kind of give us the highlights.
Sure. Why don't we go down the process and we show how, as the color changes, some of them are state mandated changes, some are recommended by Lexipol itself, and then some we've just taken on with the name changes to department leads or things like that. So, Justin?
Yeah, so the goal was to give you guys a cover page, giving you a brief update of what it is. As you go to each section, as per normal, the red with crossed out is what they're proposing to be removed, blue is new proposals, and then black is current. Instead of giving you guys the whole chapter, what we felt would be best is to give you just the section that's being updated, try to limit the amount of information as much as possible. If you look, you'll see often it'll say either best practice, federal, state, or agency content. Federal is, that policy is based on federal law, state is based off state law. Best practice, it is what Lexipol has determined is best practice nationwide. And then agency contact is anything that we have decided to add that we feel needs covered based on, physical layout of the facility, unique things that we deal with at our facility. And then, like I said, there's about, there's 7 changes on this one, but there's multiple updates within each section usually.
Have any questions?
Can you give us the highlights?
Yeah, absolutely. So on some of the major changes are like on the anti-retaliation policy, it's cleaning up language, making it clearer and making sure we're in line with county policy. It'll say refer to county policy and human resources. Under personnel complaints, it's removing civil service because we no longer follow under civil service rules. We added in Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission notifications into our policy. Lexipol had not added that. That's what's showing as agency content, but it is required by state law under certain circumstances for us to make notifications to them. So we wanted our staff to be notified in policy that we are required to do that. And then under transportation of inmates outside the secure facility, that is updating our process on making sure that we can both safely and humanely transport inmates to medical appointments for their safety, community safety, and our officers' safety, and that we're documenting everything properly while we do that. Under court transport policy, this is a new policy that we added in. It was combined originally in one transport policy. Due to the number of transports we're doing outside the facility and to court, we felt it was best to separate it out. Some of this is based on courtroom case law on when inmates can be handcuffed and unhandcuffed when they are in front of judges, how we should transport them, when we should transport them. A lot of it focuses on not securing pregnant females based off of state law due to safety concerns. And then the last policy we have is a new policy on radio procedures. And this is to bring uniformity to how we communicate on our radios, the channels we use, letting our staff have a resource on how they know what channels to use between facilities if they're out doing other things out in the community as well. And then the last change is a policy-wide change, and that is updating our agency head title from director to chief.
Looks like, yeah, as you stated, a lot of state requirements and changes, so.
Is this a format we'd like moving forward, just to get on the agenda every 3 months and get it out to you maybe a month ahead of time and
I think
just answer any questions that come up? Okay. We don't want to be an overwhelming process, so.
I think it's good for us to just be aware though, what changes are coming from the state, what changes are coming from the feds. You know, just, understanding, it helps us understand your jobs better, so.
Great. Anything else for us? Any questions?
I think it's helpful information. Is there, in the documents that you provided, is there any easy way for us when we're looking at it to see if it's a state law change versus a federal change?
So
There is at the very top underneath the section, so 517.1 purpose and scope, you'll see best practice modified under that, or if it's a state law, you'll see state hyphen modified, and then the same for federal. And then you also see
Oh.
or agency content there.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That little header under the
Exactly.
title. Okay.
and it will show those if you log on to Lexipol as well, it will also show those.
The only other thing I wanted to inform the board about is that just a couple weeks ago, we were informed that Spokane's we were awarded the AJA, American Jail Association Conference in 2027. So we're going to be the host agency in 2027. We've been applying, I think Director Sparber's been applying. We've been applying for a lot of years. It's really the national conference for corrections. I've traveled to a lot of different places, but we'll be taking that on next year. So we're traveling to Milwaukee to kind of an orientation this year with a handful of us, and then we'll be hosting next year at the convention center, May 15th to the 20th, about there. So,
Congratulations.
so
Yeah,
well, thank you.
great.
Yes, I think it's going to be a lot of work. So it was one of those things that, like, so we will figure it out. But yeah, it's
Condolences then?
Yeah. We'll get through it. We'll get through it. Yeah. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's gonna take us to Gil. I see you up there.
Morning, commissioners. I speak pretty loud anyway, so I didn't want to overwhelm everyone. So, couple months back, I briefed the board about the use of government contracts and limits that we were allowed to do. And at that time, I was asked to go back and look at some of the vendors that we use routinely for routine maintenance, such as fire alarm testing, a lot of our HVAC repairs that we do here. And over the last, we did like a 5-year history and look back at, these are the vendors that we routinely exceed the 50K per year that we budget into our annual budget. And this is just to brief the board and ask permission to proceed forward with our purchasing department to make these expenditures for the routine testing. It was Costco fire protection, Costco fire protection for repairs. So with Costco fire protection, we usually, what we like to do to streamline this and not have to have them come back and set alarms off, we usually give them the flexibility to not only do the testing, but if they have the ability to do the repair right there and then, we kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then the Simplex JCI fire testing, that's for the jail itself. And we usually, the testing alone usually runs into over 30K, but then it depends if they have to do some repairs or something. So it may exceed that 50K limit. And then the Ferguson, normally I don't exceed the 50K on HVAC repairs because we use our own in-house technical support. But we had bought some units for the Monroe Court this year that had exhausted before their life expectancy. So we had to purchase those as part of this. So with this summer coming up and not being able to see about what my normal annual repair budget is, I may exceed that 50,000 this year with Ferguson.
So are you asking for not to exceed, or is it?
No, these are just basically, I'm asking for permission to proceed through purchasing a set for normally I would come to the board if I was purchasing something over 50,000 for a repair, a test repair, something of that nature. But with Workday, this is an accumulative value over the course of the entire year that I would be exceeding. It's gonna be 10,000 here, 5,000 here. So it's across the course of the year, which is something new we've never done before. So these were the ones that I had identified that we do routinely for routine maintenance exceed 50,000.
What we decided to do on these, instead of waiting until the actual expenditure that puts them
Yeah.
over 50, and then it might slow them down a week or 2 to get through the process. We asked him to bring forward anything that he thought would likely get to 50 and get the board's approval in advance, since Workday will stop it when you get to that one that takes you from 45 to 52, once you cross 50. So these are 4 things that he does every year. They might get to 50, they might stop in the high 40s, they might get into the 50s.
Yeah.
We're just looking for board approval, but if we get there, we can keep going.
No, and I don't have a problem with that. I just, it's like, you know, if we hit, I mean, if we give it for over 50, I mean, we're not setting the ceiling though either. So it's like, if it hits 100, then wouldn't we want to know? You know?
Well, the budget will set a ceiling. We will be watching the run rate on the budget and be presenting that to the board
Okay,
monthly. So if we start seeing something askew,
Yeah.
you will be seeing that well in advance.
Yeah.
but will we see it to that level? We won't see it to this kind of level, I don't think.
Well, we normally, these are quarterly or semi-annual that we do. So we would, to accumulate a value of that, it would have to be something very catastrophic that I would have to come brief the board on for that repair approval anyway. So it's like over time, these may hit that limit, they may not. So I just didn't want to, especially on the HVAC repair side, I didn't want to get in a situation where Workday would stop me from doing it.
Right, and no, when those things happen, you
Yep.
need to take care of it right away.
But it's-
So no, I understand that.
It's highly unlikely if I ever hit anything over that 50 that was a major catastrophic repair, I'd have to or do an emergency rec for that.
I just want to be cognizant of. you know,
Upper limits, yes.
Yeah.
I will talk with Tessa and Jason, see if we can call this line out or anytime we make an approval like this, if there's a way we can call it out on the reports. And then, see if that will solve what the problem
Yeah.
you're addressing that could happen.
I think that's where, I mean, I just don't want to get in the situation where it's like, oh, we approved it to go over, so
Yeah.
it's just. everybody's
In March and
worried
come
about it.
November, we're at 300,000, yeah.
And it's not you,
No.
Gil, or any of that, or these
No.
line items, it's just any, as this is now an issue with Workday. I'm assuming we're gonna be getting more of these,
Possibly, yes.
so I just want to be honest with what we think the reality should be for, if, cause I don't want to stop,
No, it's, I mean,
making
it's.
the air conditioner repaired when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yes. Yeah, it's, I mean, it's watching, it's the way that we monitor our budget throughout the year. But I just knew on these ones here, we have hit that 50,000 mark. We've had a couple of the inspections, we've had some major items. We had a major backflow that we had to do on the fire riser repair that, was kind of one of those unforeseens a couple of years back. But for that year, it took me over the 50,000 with the testing and the repairs combined. So these are the only items that I found like that aren't under contracts.
I mean, I'm good with it.
Okay.
I think we just gotta look at the reality.
We'll look at options and report back.
Any other questions?
I agree with your concerns and agree with the plan.
Thank you. Takes us to Mount Zerachor.
Said all day. Morning, commissioners. Appreciate your time this morning. It's vacation season. Oh, do we have the other one? I'll start with this one. Do you have the other PowerPoint for all the vacations? Good deal. Thank you, Ron. All right, so it's vacation season, not the fun kind, but road vacations. First one is up in Micah. You can see southwest of the county on the vicinity map. And it's across Highway 27 from Micah. And the request comes from John Consul. He's the owner of Integrity Excavation out that way, if you're familiar with him. And he's requesting the vacation of these two right-of-ways shown in red. And we do not object. The parcels to the west have alternate access. They have easement access. That's been verified. And the road is not open. There's really nothing there. So we support that vacation. And as does WashDOT, nobody's opposing it. And happy to answer any questions on that. Okay. Next one. So going out west now, you can see on the vicinity map, we're out on Clear Lake. And there's an old plat along the east side of the lake. And there's a bunch of unopened right-of-ways. People are wanting to live out there now. So after 100 years, they're starting to develop on these lots. And the right-of-ways are not where they should be to allow for development, essentially. We've kind of moved through a number of vacations on Lakeview Boulevard, kind of working north to south and also south to north. This piece in the middle, there's topographic issues that you can't tell from the aerial, but there's no ready connection here. It's topographically limited. And frankly, we don't need it because we have Clear Lake Road right there to the east. So we would support the recommendation to vacate this section right away. Historically, we've asked them to replace that right of way. You know, the ones further to the east, you can see where they're lined up. But again, there's no ability to connect on this, so we're not asking for that. There's enough access. We don't need a second access point. So we would support vacating this section roadway and happy to answer any questions regarding it. All right. Thank you. Next one. This one I'm going to brief you about. It's actually on hold right now. This is 7 Mile and Trails Road, Old Trails, and it goes through the ORV park. This is kind of in the middle of the ORV park, if you're familiar with it. That's their parking lot, kind of towards the north end of the aerial on the right side of the road. And Parks is doing a lot of work here, State Parks. They're going to build a new parking area and unloading area and facilities just south of the red portion that we're showing to be vacated. They want this vacation at the local level. They're just going through their own processes to get the approval to accept that vacation portion right away. It works better with their plan. We don't need the right of way. This road's built. If you've driven it, it used to be basically a dirt road and very poor level of service. 10, 15 years ago, we rebuilt it. It's a very nice road now. It's a very well-used connection. We'll actually be coming back to the board with some additional changes. They're going to rename the roadway. They're going to change the speed limits and all of that to make it a better connection, essentially, in the transportation sense. The Parks Department supports all of that. So, we'll be back before you with those other recommendations regarding traffic. But this one will come back. I can brief you again later, depending on how long it takes, but we anticipate it coming back before too long. And we support this vacation. Frankly, I don't even know why it was there. It probably was some need from the old alignment of the road before we redid it. But our road's built to what we anticipated and needing to be built for in the future. Any questions? Okay, next one. Back out west again, this is, you can see I-90 running diagonal through the vicinity map. You can see Granite Lake there on the right side. And again, we have an old plat, turn of the century plat. And these are 20-foot wide right-of-ways, which frankly aren't even buildable in our world, and they aren't where we would even build them. This area has a lot of wetlands and critical areas. And the person asking for it owns all those properties that you show there. And we fully support removing these right-of-ways. They will grant additional access and easements and right-of-ways as needed as they develop. And these just aren't in the right place to facilitate any of that. And they own all of it, so there's no access issues. Happy to answer any questions. Okay. Next one. So the last one is up. This is Northwest Christian's campus, if you're familiar with where that is, up in North Spokane. And they own both sides of this right-of-way. They own the property hatched in blue there. And the proposal is to vacate the red portion of right-of-way. It's called Trevor Road. It's essentially unopened and we have no need for it. It goes right into their campus, and all the other parcels behind it have alternate access to other right-of-ways. And this goes with the next one, if you want to do the next one, Ron. We have a 1-foot strip. If you're familiar with what those are, it's essentially how we used to do access control to our public right-of-ways. Essentially, so if somebody fronted on a right-of-way, they would have to come talk to us before they could access a right-of-way, because right-of-ways out in the middle of the field, they're public right-of-ways. So people could access them without coming and having a conversation with us and seeing what improvements might need to be made. So this is kind of an old thing where we granted these 1-foot strips. And what we have to do is we have to actually dedicate this 1-foot strip as right-of-way and then immediately vacate it. It will probably all be at the same legislative session, and we'll just do one followed immediately by the other just to clean it up, because we don't want to have this 1-foot strip out in the middle of their property after it's all said and done. Okay. One more. We're kind of just in that Salt Greenwood Grove area, just up on the West Plains, but very close to town, if you're familiar with that area. And again, another old plat. This one was actually vacated by the non-user statute back around the turn of the century. This vacation is just how we formalize acknowledging that that right-of-way has been vacated. It was through process of law. It's already been vacated, but they either have to pursue it in court or we can just vacate it and clean it up that way. And if we don't have a need, we just usually go through the effort of vacating it, and that way they formally get the property back without having to go through a court action. But we definitely do not need this one. Happy to answer any questions. Yep, no, we support these. We don't anticipate any resistance from the public regarding them, and the people that it accesses are the ones petitioning. Okay, thanks. And I think we got one more. Thank you, Ron. Next slide. So the road fund owns this parcel that red outline wraps around. We own that intersection of Market and Magnesium. We had purchased it, I believe, to do this realignment work when we realigned Magnesium to bring it down. This goes down a pretty steep slope. The additional area shown in red there is us granting ourselves an easement so that we have the slope within our right of way in case we need to do any work on the road. We're going to surplus that parcel. We'll be back to you to request surplusing it. It's a very valuable piece of property. I mean, it's at the intersection of Market and Magnesium. And we had bought it at one point in time thinking we may build a shop there. We've gone another direction. We have our 2 shops up north that take care of our needs. And frankly, it's a nuisance, a huge nuisance. It gets an incredible amount of dumping on it that we're constantly chasing. We've tried to block it out. People camp there. I mean, it's a nuisance property. We are not great landlords, as I believe the board's aware of. So we're wanting to surplus this sooner than later. It's a really nice piece of property. It'll be great for somebody to develop, but just not us. So we're just granting ourselves an easement. So we have the property rights and we wouldn't have to go back to some future owner and try and get rights if we need to do something on our own roadway.
So we're gonna be granting ourselves the reds.
Correct. Yep. Yep. The reds. Correct. Yeah. It's essentially a slope easement like we would get on a new project. We just don't want to come back. Happy to answer any questions. Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Kyle and Beth.
Good morning, commissioners. This is just a status update on the short-term interim action work plan that was required by Ecology last month. This is a collaboratively built presentation that's going to be shared with both the city council, which was done yesterday, here with the commissioners today, and the airport board will also all have the same update as the 3 parties worked collaboratively to put this together. As you know, a little background, airport was listed as a PFAS site a few years ago. They've been working on their investigation work and have reports that have been recently submitted to the Department of Ecology. We've been added in as potentially liable parties as of last summer, and then we signed the agreed order as that got all worked out in January of this year. That public comment period just recently expired on March 9th. And during that public comment period, after we signed the agreed order, we were noticed to have short-term emergency interim actions. So that plan was due last Friday on the 20th and was submitted. It's currently under review by the Department of Ecology. They have a week, 10 days, 7 days to review that plan and provide any comments or changes they would like to see in it. So we're just giving everybody an update that the plan's been submitted and what's in that plan. So here's the area outlined in the emergency interim action. There's about 2,000 parcels that are currently on municipal water provided by the city of Spokane. There's another 2,000 parcels roughly that are vacant. And so about 900 properties and buildings that are likely on permit exempt wells. So about 900 properties will be the focus of the work in the work plan. And really it's just prioritizing public health. That's everything that's in here.
Just a question, the area, is that is the area as defined by Ecology's orders?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the components about this is immediate access to clean water. That is not one of, it's the component, primarily speaking here. So one of the things that we put forth in this is new opportunities for residents in the area. As you may know, the Department of Health has been providing bottled water and under sink filters to many of these residents. What they haven't had access to is water at scale, particularly for outdoor use, gardens, livestock, things like that. So making the city's Garden Springs filling station available to folks, and we're also going to provide containers. Another component of this too is just not putting a bunch more plastic out into the environment and having something that's a more sustainable path for clean drinking water. And then also providing filter pitchers, which haven't been provided in the past. This is another component that we've heard from the public, is when they have one under sink filter in the kitchen, you know, they've got to go back to the kitchen to go get clean water to brush their teeth and into the bathroom. So that's the nice thing about having the countertop filters additionally available that haven't been provided as of yet, is that they can be put in different locations around the house. And this is really just the bridge component to our Poet system installations. The plan also talks to filter replacements for those that already do have the under sink filters. We're also not going to wait. So these will be made available to folks regardless of whether they've had a test, regardless of whether they can prove their contamination. If they're in the area and they're on a well, we're going to get them clean water. So we will be doing a lot of testing throughout this plan, kind of making a systematic approach so that we can get high quality testing done and really understand the extent of any contamination out in the area here. But we're not going to wait for that to get water to people. We will be getting testing started right away, but there's a lot of testing to do, and there's a lag to getting results and analyzing the data. So we just want to make sure people have clean drinking water immediately. There's a lot of communication components within the work plan. The navigators being a very unique opportunity that we have, where we actually have two individuals that can really be those point of contacts for folks and boots on the ground. And then we're just going to leverage it. I mean, we have 3 large organizations with a lot of communication capabilities. We're being very collaborative with our partners, making sure everybody's using the same messaging. Everybody is trying to make it as easy as possible for the residents that are impacted, so that they're not trying to figure out who to call, who to contact, and getting information out there. We'll have some public events that are likely to follow here once we have our comments back from ecology. But getting the word out is a big part of the plan. So next is waiting for those comments from ecology, working through those with them. They have to approve them before implementation can begin, or have to approve the plan. We're trying to get additional resources. So we have already applied for Ben putting a MOCA grant ask. The city of Spokane applied for the alternative drinking water grant. And there's some additional opportunities. We're kicking every rock we can to find some additional resources to bring to bear here. You know, we're going to need more to do Poet systems and municipal water connections that are going to be required in that long-term plan. And then, you know, we pretty much have to immediately pick our pencils back up and get working on that long-term plan, because that's due in May. So we have to be doing all this in parallel, delivering on the interim action plan, the short term, developing the long term. Obviously, we don't have time to wait on the Poet systems. Those need to go. So those will be going well, you know, before the long-term plan's finalized. But we know it's a component of it. We know we got to deliver that in a short amount of time. So that's continuing to work along with that site assessment and work plan related to the testing. Any questions I can answer? Or kick to Ben, because he knows this better than I do.
Whoever can answer. No, I think looks like an excellent plan. So good job putting together very quickly with the city, some short-term actions that we can take. I guess I'm wondering if there's any new updated info on how far we think that 7.5 million will go in terms of how many properties, we had a guesstimate when we went to the state and asked for the capital funds. And we know we're gonna need more to support more property owners that might need access. So I was just wondering if we have any new info on kind of the cost per wellhead.
Short answer, no, we don't. So we're working on it though. Our contractor Northwind that was selected as most qualified from the RFQ is out there this week, visiting, prior to signing a contract, is visiting to get an understanding of some example houses and what those might cost. And so we're trying to get the scope and fee developed to get them working. We've continued to ask that question. They're real hesitant to provide a specific answer because of, we start then doing math and then we start to hold them to that. And so they haven't provided that number, but they're looking into that this week to get that going.
And the expectation is that it's going to be a big variable. Every house, every well is different. The amount of water they're using is different. The suitability of a location for the installation of the bullet systems. We expect a large range of different build costs. So I think we're going to really need to kind of see, it's going to take some time to get the low end of that range, the high end of that range. What's our average? And that's going to take a lot of time on the ground to get there. So we'll soon be able to, I think, provide you what are the first few systems going to cost, but not knowing the extent of what each and every location is going to look like, I can't even give you an average right now.
So this contractor, they're looking at what would be the appropriate technology, or they're gonna provide the actual technology, the wellhead filters?
So the contractor will provide the filtration system, and it's a modular system. So
Okay,
it can be sized for the water use in the
Great.
building. They have experience at other sites doing this, installing filters for private houses and making them variable sizes depending on the water use for the home. But no, they have the equipment. It's not really proprietary. It's cylinders several cylinders that go near the wellhead with a media in their carbon media that take the PFAS out, and then the water goes in for use. And so the technology is defined. They just have to figure out all of some might need new electrical systems, some might need new sheds, heaters, kind of all of the challenges of installing these on all the different homes. Every home is different.
right,
and
they're
every home
using
has
their
different
water.
use differently. So but really the technology is there. It's just what scale will be installed is the key step. And that's why they're there to look this week to start to get an understanding.
Great, thank you.
And why we think there'll be some similarities in systems, it will come down to some of the individual test results of the water. Because for that PFAS filtration system to function properly, there may need to be some pre-filtration components that you add in basically in line. So these things all work in series, with usually the PFAS component kind of being the last, but you got to kind of get the water ready to have the PFAS removed. And these are, what's the term, the capture versus,
Yeah, so there's different technologies. One is the one that we're using is one that captures the PFAS. There's an option for reverse osmosis systems that can be used to actually put the PFAS back into the waste disposal, or the septic system there. And so which can then lead to just continued pollution. So we're not using that. We're using a system that's capturing that, and then the media has to be disposed of appropriately once it's exhausted at the end of its time of using.
Thanks for your work on this. Can you just say a little bit more about what's contemplated in terms of like a testing strategy at this point? Your slides kind of alluded to that.
yeah, I think the big part is
appreciate all your hard work on this. But you guys have done it quickly and well, so thank you. That's gonna take us to
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, this is a request to accept a grant award for the prosecutor's office, victim witness domestic violence personnel. So this is a $33,574 award from Washington State Department of Commerce, Office of Crime Victims. It is for victim witness domestic violence services such as advocacy for domestic violence victims and witnesses, courtroom support and preparation, safety planning, assistance with protection and no contact orders, crime victims compensation, and referrals to other service agencies, really valuable services for victims of domestic violence. The award is $33,574. There are indirect costs included, and our recommendation is that you grant acceptance of this award.
That's good to me.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to note that I ran into some folks who used to work at Lutheran Community Services. And if you remember, part of our legislative agenda was to try and push the state to put some more funding into this pot because the federal government funds have gone down. And from what I heard, they were successful in increasing the dollar amount for these services. So hopefully next year, the grant will be a little larger.
thank you. That's gonna take us to Mike Sparver.
Maybe more. Community side.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a miscellaneous as well, so we can do some miscellaneous here in the meantime. Okay, since we're off schedule anyway. One of those days, like a Monday, but it's Tuesday.
Ahead
You
of
go.
schedule. Ahead. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's good.
So just a heads up, Ron sent around this morning an email to each of you. The governor is scheduled to sign the waste energy bill tomorrow. So that is a positive for us. And all of our federal requests are in. Want to say thank you to Ron for his help on that, rounding up letters, and I'm working closely with Colton, getting stuff done. But that's the Thorpe Road into the second gate access to Fairchild to Baumgartner's office. And then the upriver Centennial Corridor project that went to both senators, Murray and Catla. So all of that is submitted, and now we wait. Probably a couple months before we start the hearing committee process. And then just one other update. I know several of you have been receiving some emails on the Gateway Dog Park. You'll recall in the budget process last fall, Doug Chase, Parks Director, came in, and that was one of the proposals, primarily for the reason we do not own the property. It's a lease with the state. And so the thought was, let's focus on the parks that we actually own and have a long-term investment with. This is also kind of a little bit of an odd piece of property. When you think of a park, it's the old highway rest stop at State Line. So it's right on the freeway, road noise. It does include, though, some gravel parking for river access. So there is that aspect. The grassy area that used to be kind of the take your little dog out and run around area, or let the kids get some energy out when you're doing a road trip, has been fenced. And that's created, I believe, a little over a 3-acre dog park where the dogs are just roam free. That has become somewhat popular. It is one of the only ones in that section of the county. So closing the park would precipitate closing that. Doug and his office were working on some plans. However, we have some volunteers who work at Scraps who also volunteer to do some of the cleaning at the dog park, the dog waste and such. And they got word of this, they put up a sign. So that's why I've been getting the community feedback and the article you probably saw in the paper over the weekend. Doug was on vacation, a lovely trip to Europe last week. So Murphy's Law, this all happened while he was out of the country. We have talked yesterday. I was like, welcome back. Did talk with his staff last week. They have already been in communication with DOT. And then Fish and Wildlife is also there because that's where they do the boat checks for issues on boats, bringing stuff you don't want back and forth. So they've already been talking to DOT to see if there's a possibility to leave the park open. You know, it's not a high cost, except for when people drive into the fence, which has happened every few years, Doug said. So we are looking at alternatives. Nothing is solidified or guaranteed at this point. Doug has some conversations with higher ups at DOT this week. Hopefully people who are at levels who can make those kinds of decisions. And he will plan on being here next Tuesday to provide an update based on what he learns this week. So just wanted you all to know a lot of awareness, both in the community and at the county. Doug and his team are working on this, and I think doing everything possible at this point. I mean, he'll bring it forward next week. You guys can hear what the options are, and we'll move forward accordingly. The lease, I don't remember the exact date, but it's roughly a month from today. I want to say April 21st is when the lease is up. Don't hold me to that exact date.
Yeah, and I'll just state that, I mean, I've had numerous, since it's my district, numerous calls and emails that Brenda's been taking great care of. So I think it's just one of those unintended consequences that we didn't really understand the use that was happening. I think at the briefing, we were not aware that it was a dog park or used as a dog park. And so, yeah, it's been, as soon as that sign went up, that none of us knew who put the sign up saying the park was closed, there was a lot of outcry. So, yeah, again, I think one of those unintended consequences, I'm not sure how much it's really costing us or not. So.
And kudos to Brenda. She has actually, she found the individual who put up the sign, had a good conversation with him. The sign is now down. We're appreciative that we're looking at other options. But you may be getting more emails, because of course, dog parks are hard to come by, and people who use them are going to be local.
Can I ask, so when Doug brought that forward, it was that it was a $32,000 in savings. Is that the amount that we give to DOT for them to allow the public to access this property? Is that what the $32,000 is?
That was all of our assumptions. In talking with Doug yesterday, I learned we actually don't pay for the lease. So because it's a government to government, they're granting us a $0 usage lease, so it's probably a more legal term for it. But the 32,000 is our cost to actually operate and run. They have historically mowed 2 to 3 times in the spring. Once they don't water, so as grass turns brown and quits growing in the summer, so there's not a lot of mowing. As I mentioned earlier, he says every other year, give or take, there's been a driver who, for whatever reason, backed or ran into the fence, and they've had to repair the fence to keep the park completely circled for the dogs. We do have, believe it's around 3,500 a year in waste removal. Just it's an assumption on my part, but it's probably like waste management coming and dumping the dumpster. That's going to be mostly dog waste. We have some volunteers. I believe they're mostly scraps volunteers who are doubling up as volunteers to keep the park in good condition. I've heard like at least 2 days a week. I want to say Tuesday and Friday, there's some volunteers that go out and do that. So it is being ran, based on the information I'm getting, fairly affordably for what it is. But up until yesterday, I assumed that was the cost of the lease. Now we know that's not the case. It's just the operational cost.
I have a hard time believing it costs us $32,000 a year to mow the grass 3 times a year and empty the garbage. I
I
mean, that's,
did ask Doug in his presentation next week to go back the last 2 to 3 years and actually do a line item of a breakout of the 32,000 so the board can see exactly what that has covered.
thank you. Yeah, I think, because my office has gotten questions too since the news article and the signs. I think there was maybe a misunderstanding about like what you're saying, that we were paying the state. Those were just costs that we were incurring to maintain, but maybe there's a medium ground that we can find where we have another day that volunteers can come out and help maintain and it would be, I didn't know it was a dog park, so it's good to know. I guess we find these things out.
And to Doug's credit, when we went back and looked at the PowerPoints from last year, it is right there, plain as day. But I would say it's one none of us gravitated to, and it wasn't called out. And so, there's just a lot of details going by in budget, and this is one that just got overlooked for whatever reason. But Doug is looking for those creative options, like you just suggested, to see, is there something we can do working with the state?
Well, and that's the thing. I think it's important the state know that it has value. It's the state's land. And I don't think they would want to see it just with no maintenance. Or else they're gonna have to not that they would have to maintain the park, but if people start throwing junk and trash, and it's gonna become a nuisance site for the state as well. So there's a benefit. to the
Having people
state.
there can be a
Yes,
benefit, yes.
yes.
Yeah, no, because I heard that, the volunteers actually help to keep people from camping and property like that. So potentially if we don't do anything with it, it could become DOT property. So it's DOT right away. So I think again, it's just one of those things that we don't always understand the unintended consequences of the decisions that are making. And so it's been brought to our attention, and so we can try to figure out how we can do it differently.
I want to echo what both Commissioner Brooks and Waldron have said. I actually had a conversation with someone I know really well that says they spend 300 days a year at this park. They regularly attend, and they told me that it is a very tight-knit community that uses this, and she indicated that they always pick up trash. Like we have a community that uses this that has really taken ownership in this property and help keep it clean, help pick up the trash and all that. So I think that's just another benefit that, quite frankly, the community has found a way to also keep this park in top shape, as much as possible. But there are things out of our hands if someone runs into the fence. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. And I think we can keep the cost of this park, pretty low, quite frankly.
That's it for my miscellaneous.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have the COG coming up next week, so I have a draft agenda. I'm gonna hand out. It is draft. Commissioner Jordan and I have kind of talked through what, since we know the COG is, really to try to have the Safe and Healthy Task Force give an update to all of our elected stakeholders. That's the true purpose. We may have a couple of others, I know, that aren't on here, but I know Tim Fitzgerald wanted 5 minutes, and so did Assessor Tom Conis. So I would probably be adding them to this as well at the start. But this is kind of what we have at this point to just put an update. Now we need to approve, at least we're heading on officially the agenda for the call. Make sure that we have a draft, and that's the only other changes I think that I would see would just be adding those two. So I'll probably have like a little miscellaneous for other elected jurisdictions to speak like.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good for everyone at the Council of Governments to see that the MIG consulting firm that's been kind of leading the process, it'd be good to have them there. They'll be in person, kind of being a part of the presentation, it sounds like. And then I think the task force committee updates is an opportunity to hear from some of the members of the Safe and Healthy Task Force and kind of they'll have a little bit of a panel discussion. So hopefully it'll be a good snapshot of where that process is at and an opportunity to ask questions. And then hear from a few key jurisdictional leaders, maybe about what we hope to see from it. So I think it'll be a good event.
Yeah, and it is at Center Place. The fairgrounds was not available, but the city of Spokane Valley is comping us and hosting the event, their location. I'm not sure on the coffee and water service. I mean, we may have to be picking that piece up, but we were just going to be having coffee and water. We're not going to have any other food. They have a caterer that is contracted, so we're not going to be able to bring in anything. So it will just be coffee and water. Okay.
One other item just came to mind. As you're looking over the next month of meetings, we meet next week, then you're off a week for spring break. Then there's a meeting week and then off again for the GSI trip. So if anyone has timely issues to get before the board, we're going in the next 5 weeks. We meet, don't meet, don't meet. Then meet. So just know we're as people are planning things, take that into consideration the next few weeks.
And we do have a strategic planning meeting planned for the 13th.
The 13th, 14th we have, and then we have another one.
27th when we're back. I think you did move those.
Yeah.
Adjusted those.
So I think we should be able to handle everything with those, but if something is super timely, there might be a couple of requests to do a morning briefing, 2 p.m. if something is super timely. We'll see if it comes to that, and we'll be sure and give you guys adequate time to make your decisions when you get it up. We just want to call that to their attention.
I agree. I think if stuff that's timely, I mean, we do that as on an exception basis, and so we could have been those times. So need to do that because it's always better to put it on the 2 o'clock and we can always strike it versus not. Okay. Any other miscellaneous items to come before us? Okay.
Oh, I just want to say happy opening week, happy opening day week. Baseball is back. The Mariners are in first place, looking good. This is our year and there's hope. That's all I have to say.
Hope is eternal in spring sports. So yes, go Mariners. Anything else? Okay, so then we're done with our miscellaneous. Then I see Mr. Sparber. We'll come back to that.
Okay. Nate and I will share this with you. Okay, good morning. Good to see you all. So today we have another exciting milestone in the crisis relief and sobering project. It's actually GMP. And so we want to talk through some of the process of how we got here and some of the things that we'd like to look at going forward for the crisis relief and sobering center. First, I'll have Nate go ahead and introduce yourself. He's our owner's rep.
Hi, Nate Brazil with Turner Townsend Hearing. So I've been working with you guys since the beginning, moved over from Hill to Turner Townsend and following the project from inception.
So we're sure happy to have him. It's been a joy to work with. I think you'll agree on that.
Yeah.
Stays in us.
Yes, it's very helpful.
Yeah. So anyway, you recall the original resolution that we had with a placeholder for the crisis relief and sobering center, which was for 12.9 million. And then we didn't, know the exact square footage and how it's gonna lay out other properties. So we started off with something. And on the first resolution, that's how we started with 12.9. And then we moved to the validation phase and through the design phase so that the cost went up. And so we want to show you some of the details on the cost as we make our way to the GMP. So go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, so essentially through the process of the validation, we realized that the scope, the program that the project needed, plus the square footage, the location, how we're gonna incorporate the new building into the existing CSU project or facility, and then the turning market was kind of growing at that point. So at the end of the validation, the numbers came in from the design build team at 13.146, so turning a little bit higher than what was originally estimated for the 12.9. We felt fairly confident that they would be right around that 12.9, 13 milestone as the project moved forward. And then throughout the validation design process, the design build team tried to put in some what we consider BE, value engineering efforts, into the mechanical system, which is a VAV system, without getting the details of that, which would have been a little bit cheaper build that doesn't have necessarily the integrity that the county was looking for. I can let Bill speak on this. Essentially what was asked at that point was some additional funds to move over to the project. So there was an agreement of roughly 500,000, moving the GMP now to 13.4 to try to accommodate the 4-pipe system, which for the design build team was still kind of a challenge to accomplish to meet the program, the space needs, the design itself, with the kind of escalating construction costs of it. So, the 4-pipe system was really more important. I'll let Gil speak to the detail of that if he needs.
So the majority of the buildings that we've engineered since we've started, last 10 years, medical examiner, shooting range, the crisis stabilization center, we design the systems that way so we have alternatives for us in emergency. So for our systems that we operate at 24/7, the VAV systems, when you go to that type of model, you lose that emergency ability. Once they go down, they're down. It's a lot similar, and in reference, it's a lot similar to your house unit that you have. Once the AC side of it goes down, if it has some type of catastrophic failure, especially when it comes to the refrigeration side of it, the system is down. So in HVAC language, they become burnt systems. So they literally have to be completely reworked. So now it's down, you're looking for parts. You don't know what the time frame is to bring it back up. So for these entities that we run 24/7, we design the 4-pipe systems, so we have alternatives in those situations. So, and it gives us also the ability to engineer them to where we can work on them outside of not having to disturb the operation. There's no patient, technician interface. It's all done outside of that area. And that's kind of been the model for the last 10 years that we've used. And we've literally had 100% success rate. You really haven't had to do anything that disrupts the operation.
Sorry. So we just need to make sure that that's in our specs, because that wasn't in the specs, right?
They are in our specs, and
Okay.
those are what we originally looked. I think that this was just a cost cutting measure when they were looking at other options on how to lower the price.
Right, yes.
Okay.
So one of the challenges on a progressive design build is there's a budget. We're trying to build a project to the scope of it. And so as one can imagine, if everybody has a wish list and a want list, and that just keeps growing and growing and growing, the design team is doing the best they could to try to accommodate everybody's wish list, so to speak. And as one can imagine, the price just keeps growing and growing and growing. So as the overall facility itself is kind of like the foundation of it's growing and blossoming almost into this beautiful project, they're also trying to figure out where can we save money and still give everybody what they want. So that was one of the efforts that they proposed is we believe we can do this with a VAV system versus a 4-pipe system. So oftentimes you'll see this in progressive design build is, yes, there are some standards or, the specs if you want to consider that, but they also try to find avenues to where they can still try to achieve the same goal while using a different product.
No, in the 24/7.
Yeah.
you know,
And
they'll
that's
be
the
just like
main
we have
reason,
here.
that's the main reason for those designs. The systems that I worked on prior to coming to the county, they were 24/7 operations. And that was the preferred method for any type of environment.
Yeah, and per Gil's comment, yeah, it does really make sense for an environment of this nature where it is truly a 24/7 operational building where we don't have weekends and off, after 5 to get surface crews in there to replace, or repair certain items that are crucial to our environment. So with that kind of being said, through the progression of that, then once we do get through the final design of it, working out all of the needs, the wants, and the program requirements for this project, meeting of the DOH Department of Health Standards and departments, the final GMP from the design build came in at 13,752,495, as you can see on the screen up there for the total, and that is inclusive of basically all said things outside of what would consider betterments or upgrades to the project as well. There's a couple betterments that were included, and most part, this is really inside the courtyard of the design of the project itself. Currently right now is the drawings, or what is shown through the construction, is kind of a concrete slab out there for furniture to be placed on. But there's not any real added detail to that. And so throughout the design conversations, we've talked about the importance of having an environment on the actual courtyard that is more conducive to the therapeutic side. And this is where Justin shines on this conversation.
Brought me into that for a month, Bill.
Brought in the ringer.
Yeah, so that is initially back when we were looking at the existing facility and the use of outdoor space. It was a tiny, I don't know if anyone had seen that one, but it was a 8 by 6 foot or 10-foot section that was provided mostly for outdoor smoking and really didn't provide for individuals to have engagement or therapeutic space to see the outdoors. And as you can see, all the windows being frosted, there isn't an ability at this point in time for individuals in the entire facility to have engagement with the outdoors while they're staying with them. So a big focus on this was we know we needed to have outdoor space for the 60+ bed that will be at this one and will be centrally located within the facility. Instead of just having a concrete box, the design around adding additional therapeutic items, including a walk space that will border along the side. One of the things that we found with individuals who are in treatment and are often withdrawing from substances and maybe nicotine, they need and are agitated space to be able to walk around. And having a walk space that provides that in a safe location and visually appealing is also beneficial for their therapeutic engagement. The second aspect is places to sit and potentially add greenery. So these are all areas that as we look at the central location, will serve the entirety of it. We increase the space almost threefold. And we would like to put in more seating and special seating that would be safe for the individuals being out there. They'll always be monitored either by an individual out there, a staff member, and by cameras, ensuring that the space is further safe. That's expensive for the equipment as well as the items being rented. So that's another area that increased the cost of the outdoor. And then also it's an open internal space. So ensuring that it's clear during the winter for snow and ice accumulation is also a key design aspect that costs additional for that. So those are areas that we'd like are the betterments, and we do believe for a one-time, at least for the improvements initially for that space, is beneficial for the long-term vision of the facility as well as the service to the individuals that will be residing there. And it will serve all individuals in the withdrawal management, co-occurring residential, and stabilization, not just in crisis.
Next slide, Gina. One more, please. Well, take a look at the budget here. You can see that our overall funding streams are on the lower left, and that's what we're operating within. And so I'm trying to adhere as close as I can to the GMP and then be mindful of some of the betterments that have to take place as well. Understand that that's the total project cost. That's with lab procurement, FF&E, and all the other functions that have to go into it, permitting and everything else. That's the total project that we're looking at. we're estimating that we're gonna be around the 18 million range, I think, all said and done, is that correct?
And this is without the betterments.
Without the betterments. So the betterment to be on top of that price right there, and then due to GMP is above that portion of it.
Yes,
So-
this is essentially to kind of show the breakout of the upper top right, the blue one is, that's the GMP itself, the construction side of it, as far as what we had with the validation cost of it, the small little green slice through the design and what considered design pre-con. And there's a few kind of early on board consultants through that process to build the team essentially with the mechanical and electrical onboarding team members on that one. And then showing what the actual construction side of it's going to be with the general conditions, general requirements, which all inclusive of that. And
Tax, and then sales tax, so, right.
yeah, and then the lower red pie essentially shows all of the breakout from the GMP and the majority of it, the sales tax, and again, including what the sales tax is for this construction cost. The other side will show the overall cost with betterments as well. We'd like to believe anyways that everything is covered as far as the FFE, contingency, sales tax, soft cost, hard cost, and any miscellaneous.
Anything
Yeah.
that's miscellaneous, but,
Oh, I was just gonna note that I do believe we received, or I guess, once the budget is signed by the state, we're receiving 730,000, and that'll be 773. Oh, that's higher than I thought.
Exactly.
And so that'll be added to the blue piece of the pie, right? So it'd be 3,773,000.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
should probably reflect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because that's a big chunk
I didn't
increase.
include it because it wasn't done yet, but.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, but I don't want to lose that
Yeah.
that we really benefited from, hopefully the state supporting us with those dollars, so. That helps with some of the
I am
cost
self-complete and that
increase.
makes
Yes.
it clear.
Yeah,
And I just be cautious because if it's coming from commerce, they take their 10% or.
That's true. There might be a little off the top for the commerce pass through, but it started at 773.
Okay, but we want to make sure that this just reflects what we're actually going to use.
Once we get that official number, we'll put it in accordingly.
true.
So you have one more slide?
One more slide, yeah. Yep.
On the funding streams, is that referring to authorized things that we've already authorized? Okay,
Within the budget, we have a hold on the 10 million in mental health and the 5 million of opioid that's reserved for this function only.
Which is what I'm operating within that budget.
Yeah.
Next
And-
slide.
And on the funding streams, it's like the federal money is no longer pending, right? Or is it still?
No, that part of the budget did pass.
Okay,
So the federal money, the 2 3s are, I don't believe we have any paperwork on them yet. I'm looking at Heather, she's confirming that. So we're still waiting to start setting up contracts. And the federal was just passed, what, a month or so ago, or within the last month?
recently.
And we still have to fill out all the paperwork and jump through the hoops. But it should be there.
And then do we get the full funding on that 3 million, or do they take a cut?
Do the feds take a cut also? We get the full 3 on the federal.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, and one thing to note is that they have the parameter limitation timelines that we're gonna be mindful of before move it to the project. So. One more slide. As I said,
There should be one more.
one more slide.
Mr. Walter.
So that on that's the 18, but in my packet, it goes 19. That's with the betterments.
That should be at the last slide with the benefit.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
the next slide.
So, so one thing when I talked with Justin, gosh, months ago about my visit to the Columbia Valley project, that is a crisis center being developed in the Tri-Cities.
Yep.
They really reached out to some private partners to help fund maybe areas that weren't necessarily necessary, but could add a lot of value to the project, like outdoor spaces, a family gathering space when people go to visit their family members that are in the facility. I don't remember exactly why they couldn't use certain dollars for it, but it might have been, it wasn't Medicaid eligible or something. But I was just wondering if we thought about reaching out to any of our private partners to sponsor the courtyard as a investment in the project. I was thinking some of the companies that provide Medicaid, insurance. I just, I'm all for using our public dollars, and we have, our opioid settlement funds, and we went and asked for state and federal support. Just wondering if we've thought about some private contribution for the courtyard, because it's a very specific thing. It could be named. It's something that, and it could be, I think it would be a source of pride. I remember hearing from several different healthcare companies that were investing in the one in Columbia Valley, wondering what we were working on. So just a thought.
And I just want to piggyback on that as an idea, some of our local health systems have like community benefit funds or like regular annual grants that they give out. And this project is going to benefit some of those systems by diverting people from ERs, et cetera. So I think they'd be a good candidate to be in dialogue with.
Absolutely. And I took the tour down there. I've been in conversation with them. They took a different approach. They didn't have within those counties the same ASO structure that we have. So the ASO structure here took the lead on getting the funding with the county, which was not the methodology they used down there. They had a parent coalition that really got the partners together. And it didn't start out with this vision. It got to that point after they toured our facility, actually. And so a lot of it was built on that. They are already facing some challenges down in Tri-Cities on making that model work, especially since long-term sustainability still is in question in terms of who will fund it. But we have been working with Pioneer. So this is something concurrently that we're doing with the provider, because we do believe they should take point on a lot of the grants and working with the community. Something we're going to partner with, who will take the lead on if there are private donations, who receives those and passes those through. A little bit more challenging when at the county side and what that structure would look like. But Pioneer will be chasing 2 grants that we've been working on with both Commerce, which will look for more investment and more improvement in facilities. We're waiting for the last budget here to come through. That took a big cut in the Ledge's budget this year. But we do anticipate that they'll be chasing that one. And there's some federal grants as well for improvement. So those are all areas by which we will be this year. And then also looking at partnerships with private organizations, as we have met with some in the community who would voice their interest in that, about collating those together and saying what's the best, who will be chasing those on behalf of this facility and work with the county to implement that. I think the thing that we wanted to start with was, what's the base, right? We can get ice cleared out from the internal, and we have a base for the footprint for the walk path. Can they add additional things to this space, as well as the entranceway and other rooms that could make that more focused to the public? And those are areas that we're looking at improving as part of the partnership with Pioneer. So those are all on the table. We don't have a clear pathway for that yet. That's still one of the many things that will be done as we begin working on the facility this year.
Justin, can you, I'm sorry if I missed it. What's the size of the outdoor space? How large is it?
I want to say 10,000 square feet, roughly. Yeah, around that.
Okay, and so you talked about a walking path. What are some of the other amenities that you envision out there again?
Just seating.
Okay.
The big one.
It just 400,000 seems like a lot to me for.
It does, and we need to break that up a little bit too. So there's a kind of line item for 108, and that's essentially to do the ice and snow melt. So, for that concrete area to be able to melt and drain off any snow accumulation, things like that. So we don't have to, one, it's usable all year long, and the maintenance side of it is greatly reduced over the life of the project, right? So there's this, not getting in there, snow blower shovels. How do we remove this X amount of snow? We've had a pretty mild winter this year that for those that don't like skiing are really happy, but the rest of us, not. But so 300 is really just kind of a target for improvement. Again, walking path, there's going to be potentially landscaping. So with that landscaping would come a little bit of irrigation and, and again, what that might look like.
Okay,
So,
if I remember correctly on this, the current stabilization center, it's outdoor sort of area. If I remember correctly, it's like AstroTurf, right? Like it's not actual
Yeah.
grass, right?
Hard
With-
concrete, hard asphalt.
Yeah, which I think is probably the way to go. You don't have to mow it, you
For
don't
sure.
have to water
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
you know, I mean, and it's, you know.
100%, yeah, we were, and the beauty of the design build, I guess, everybody together, and we just get spitballing ideas and to see what like works in it, and we do really respect Justin's knowledge of like what works for the space, so we constantly think about what type of materials and items can be safe, extremely low maintenance, again, AstroTurf versus, lawn, things like that, but also when it comes down to these facilities, we have to have like pick-proof AstroTurf, which costs more than just what you're going to find at say a football arena or something of that nature. So that's where that $300,000 comes in, it's a design two. The idea behind that is we're gonna try to get the best design, the best materials and use out of that money, versus saying, here's a design and let's put an estimate to that design. Okay. I'm gonna say, here's a bucket of money, so to speak, is how we use the terms, and what best products and best use of this money can we put in that space.
Okay.
We are still trying to decide if that's irrigation or outdoor. I mean, there was one for a garden or therapeutic plant engagement where individuals could work with that. I'm still kind of on the fence on whether or not that's feasible in that arena, especially with the availability of sunlight throughout
Well,
the year.
isn't this a facility where, I mean, ideally someone's there less than 24 hours?
Well, so that,
So,
yeah, so that's the interesting spot. It'll, yes.
okay,
Essentially located within the facility, so it'll actually abut where the current intake is for the vehicles.
okay,
The existing facility, and it will actually primarily serve those that have been transferred into the well management stabilization and co-occurring.
okay, okay.
The individuals who are there for less than 10 hours, you're right. More than likely will not be the primary customer served in that
Okay.
space.
What's our average length of stay in the current stabilization facility?
So in stabilization, anywhere from 5 to 7 days, withdrawal management, 7 to 14 days.
Okay.
Co-occurring residential, 15 to 20.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just say when I went on a tour of the Crisis Stabilization Center a while back, I asked some of the staff there, if you have one thing to have better outcomes, what do you want? And several people said more better outdoor space. So I do think it is, it's something that the people there have asked for because of the limitations of that urban setting. So I understand that. I would like to see some private entities be asked to support this. I think it's a worthwhile bucket of funds to say, yes, we're doing this, but I would like to see some requests made to others to help. I think it's a really good opportunity to do that with a specific ask around a specific piece of the project. But I think everybody can understand that would enhance the recovery setting, right, of this kind of otherwise concrete situation. So I just think it would be a missed opportunity to not have some specific asks out there to some of these larger health groups. That's just my thought. I know it's a hard thing. You guys are buried with many things. So whose job is it to do that? I don't know, but I think it should be somebody's.
I think it'd be a coordination with the commissioner district that it is.
Okay, well.
I got put on the bus yesterday.
I think you got to chase this one down.
Maybe we can put my name on the outdoor space then. No, I'm happy to dive in and try to help with that. So I would volunteer myself to help.
Sometimes asking something. It is better coming from a commissioner. So,
Yeah.
so I think coordinating with Justin is to,
Yeah.
I mean, because we don't want to be fundraising a lot in the past. You don't want to ask too many people to, and dilute it. So you just want to be targeted as to who you think might have the best opportunity. And, especially with the hospitals with their community foundation funds. A lot of those are programmed down, talking to some of the hospitals. But I think it's worth asking and it's worth having a conversation. I just want to make sure we're doing it in coordination with Justin, so he's not, so Pioneer isn't going after some and we're asking, but yeah, it is better, I think, having a commissioner.
I think I've been voluntold.
You have.
You brought this on yourself, Chris.
No, it's good work.
It'll be in the meeting minutes, don't worry.
And if it's better going to a 501c3 like Pioneer, maybe just figuring out who the point person at Pioneer is, so that there's a three-way conversation around the grants that you described. Are those for operating or are they for capital?
Capital is the ones that, the commerce, there are other operating ones that allow for mixed use. The capital ones will be, unfortunately, will be improvement ones. And we're hoping that commerce will be putting out this May, again, depending on the final budget. So
Would those cover some of the costs that are up here?
that's why we couldn't, that's why we're asking for it now for this, but we are pending that if Pioneer can get those funds, it will offset any sort of cost improvement in the space. Because that was already part of the plan, was that they would do that. It just didn't coincide with getting
Right,
the
right.
GMP.
So they're gonna apply for some of those
Yep.
behavioral health facilities grants that
Correct.
the state would have, but you said that they did reduce the pot of money this year.
Yes, that was, yeah, we don't know to what amount that will actually affect that side of the behavioral health facilities.
But anyway, yeah, it's a amazing project and would love to give the opportunity for some local healthcare organizations. And so that's my suggestion, that whoever at Pioneer is their lead for grants and community asks to work with you and I guess Commissioner Jordan. I'm willing to help too. I have one entity in mind that I could offer up that you're probably already thinking about, so.
Absolutely. And I stand ready to support you, Commissioner Gordon, and this effort.
Hopefully you'll strongly support it.
Absolutely.
Very good. Never hurts to ask.
Next slide, Ron. So overall, what we're asking for is the 14,160,495 and the resolution that you'll see next Tuesday. They will have prepared along with the documents for it.
I just wanted to check, Matt, do we need to do a resolution? I mean, so partly this is coming before us because we were looking at a change order. And I'm the signing authority. I wanted to make sure this came before the board first, before I signed that we were increasing. And I think we all knew, you know, that the 2.9 or 12.9 was a preliminary number that we were probably gonna go ahead of above that. I mean, just costs and, you know, all of that go up or things we didn't think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware before I sign anything on it. So I don't know if we need a formal resolution or,
We'll want to form a resolution for budget authority.
okay. So I would probably, I mean, I'd want to make sure that we allow ourselves room because there still could be cost changes, as we know. That I don't know what that number we really want it to be, because I mean, I don't want to have to keep coming back either, so.
At this point, we have more than enough money reserved,
Right,
but the way we looked it up last week, the way it was written was the authority to spend was based upon the without betterment number. So what we have reserved and our at staff level authority that you guys have given us are two different numbers right now.
right. I mean, I would think we would be at the 21. Because that's the revenue we know we have coming in for it, so that's our. You know, with the maximum limit we want, but we also know we're trying to keep it below that for a lot of other reasons, so.
That's just the
I'm-
will of the board.
Yeah. So I guess I'd be asking the commissioners that, you know, we would, you know, as the contracts come in, we would be signing them at the contract amount, but you know, knowing the total project cost with the betterments we see down here at the 19 million. We know we have $21 million set aside. And I guess I would just say not to exceed the 21 million. But I'm comfortable with anything else.
Yeah, that would make it a lot easier on our side.
Well, I mean, is this project budget with betterments, 19,055,000, is that our number? Or is that gonna change?
that should be the all-in.
If that's our number, that's what I'd like to stay to, so we can reserve mental health sales tax for operating the facility, you know, as needed with Medicaid changes.
Yeah.
That we don't really understand how are gonna impact us.
Yeah, the goal right now for how I see it on like the management side of it is that 19,055,000 is our kind of all-in number. And then we have a contingency, so on this point, on a progressive design build on the owner side, that we'd like to try to forecast a 5% contingency as far as what the ownership will for the overall project. The contractor has their own contingency for errors and omissions, design issues, whatever it may be on the construction side that they get to control. So on that, we have roughly $880,000 in contingency. That's
And-
we miss something.
And that's in the 19.
That is in the 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, this hoping have everything covered here from experience on this, but all the costs, everything else that we can foresee happening in the construction, all the soft costs, all the hard costs, all land procurements and the state tax, everything that we can forecast at the cost, plus a contingency brings us to that 19,055,000. And that's with the betterments of adding that $408,000 in there for 108 for the ice melt and 300 to design two. And fingers crossed that Commissioner Jordan here gets us some more money for the outdoor.
Exactly.
We heard it.
What have I done?
So.
Hey, we've gotten over 6 million
will.
by asking others.
He promised, so.
And then, yeah, when something comes up, I always come back.
Yeah.
So I,
Feel like we're getting head
Yeah,
nods
that's
for the 19 and change number.
yes, I would grant that.
Round up again, yeah. How about 19,060,000?
Yeah.
19.1?
That's fine.
Okay. We'll go 19.1 unless we hear different.
Contract, I know how this cost is do change.
And Matt, you are saying we would have to do it by resolution, which I believe is already prepared. I just have to go back and talk to them about the amount that's gonna be in it. So, yeah, change that a little bit. So,
Okay.
Great. Thank you
Great.
so much. I
Thank-
appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. Appreciate all the information. Okay, so I saw Martha Lehman Teresa, so I didn't, do you have miscellaneous you have for us today? Just a few. And yeah, as long as with the next week being the ribbon or the groundbreaking, maybe have Justin stay just a few minutes. Sorry, you keep thinking you're gonna get out of here. No, you're okay. Just so you're listening. I do want to make sure we talked about that.
Okay, would you? Oh, thank you. All right, would you like to begin with that?
Yeah, let's start with that.
All right, right now I've received RSVPs for approximately 50 people. So Senator Murray's office will be there and we'll have a letter. I have not heard if Congressman Baumgartner will be joining us, but his office will be. We have assorted state legislators and other electeds. Mayor Brown will be there, and also representatives from the different partnerships for this. So everything is proceeding apace.
Okay, very good. So I think I just wanted to bring up on speaking because it's going to be a big event. So, you know, looking at all, you know, just having seen this sheet on our funding streams. So it'd be the county, I'm asking Justin to speak as he's the one looking at how this will help our community from the internal perspective and the people that would be in our doors. Mike, if you're okay not speaking, is that okay? Do you want to speak at the groundbreaking, or are you okay not speaking?
Oh, come on, Mike.
Okay. I mean, I'm just trying to think that, you know, and I want to make sure everybody agrees, you know, so, I mean, you'd be speaking to the construction side of it and the timing of when we might have a ribbon cutting, you know, this being the groundbreaking. Having Justin speak as to the people that will be, you know, helped by coming through these doors. And then having, you know, Senator Murray's office, you know, her letter and-
about the federal funding.
Yes,
And then also Senator Riccelli about state support.
and I think that's gonna be,
Plenty.
yeah, otherwise people are gonna get bored.
All right. All right, I will make sure that
Yeah.
everybody is contacted and I'll start working on talking points.
Sorry, did you say someone from Pioneer? I wasn't sure if you wanted to have someone.
I did not at this point,
Because Justin can kind of speak
Yeah.
and recognize our operator.
Yes.
They talked about that more at the grand opening
right.
when it's closer to the services.
So right,
Yeah.
right now it's just breaking the ground. for it.
But I think it would be really good, in the talking points to talk about the success of the current facility, how many people have been served, you know, the successful financial operation of the center. So I just don't think people know enough about, you know, it's been open for what, 4 or 5 years, and how many people have come through and been served, and how many we're hoping, you know, that this will expand the opportunity to serve more people. So anyway, any of those statistics and numbers I think would be important for the media to be able to cover of what we've already accomplished and what we hope to accomplish more of.
I took notes. So,
And then just second with Lou.
I'm
And then,
sorry.
I mean, just, 'cause I don't want to get into all the commissioners speaking, but it is Commissioner Jordan's district. So do you want to say a few words? Or
I'm interested in doing that. Can I give it a little more thought? Because I also don't want to be too crowded on the speaker list. But I'll say yes unless I change my mind, if that's okay with the other commissioners.
I think that's fine. That's usually.
I can be brief.
Try to do it, and I can just speak kind of the master of ceremony.
Sure.
And I will just say that I am sticking with the speakers being the funders. Building, so. Because yeah, otherwise it can go too long and stuff gets lost in translation, so. Okay,
other than that, there was a flurry of media activity around the State Line Dog Park. So, and media coverage. Parks Director Doug Chase is back from his out-of-country vacation, so he is in contact with WashDOT and also with Scraps.
I'll let you know, Jeff already briefed us earlier
Oh.
on this, so.
All right,
So
thank
you're
you.
good.
For news releases, primarily it had to do with the city and the county and the airport submitting that draft proposal to Department of Ecology. They have a week to respond. And I know that Kyle briefed you on that. So, other than that, you did receive another request for a proclamation. Now, here's the situation we have. You have 2 proclamations that will be presented on March 31st for National Public Health Week and also for EWU's 144th birthday. Now, a couple of years ago, commissioners, you told me that you didn't want any more proclamations than 2 per your 2:00 meeting. Now, this would be a 3rd one. It's for Child Abuse Prevention Month to declare the month of April. Now, the earliest they could receive that would be April 7th.
I mean,
I think we make an exception.
yes, I think I'm fine.
With presenting it on March 31st? All right, I'll contact them and let them know. Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. There are just times where it is, you know, needs to happen, so.
And the 7th wouldn't work because we don't have a meeting.
Well,
on the 7th.
yeah, so it's, and then we would be halfway into the month.
Yeah.
So,
We are just fine doing it. 3.
thank you very much.
Okay. Any other miscellaneous? No, seeing none. Okay, so Mr. Folsom.
We have 3 closed items today. The first is contract negotiation and or publicly bid contracts under RCW 4230-110 Section D. Time estimated is approximately 10 minutes. No action is anticipated. Present, I'd like Jeff McMorris, Matthew Folsom, Devin Kurta, Sharissa Sir, Dan Gadd, Paul Alexander, Heather Arnold, and Martha Liu. Again, no action. The second is pending and potential litigation, no action. Matt Folsom, Jeff McMorris, Devin Kurta, Kyle Tuig, Ben Bradabo,
So that'll be executive session, not closed session.
executive session.
Thank you.
The second one. And the third is closed labor under RCW 4230-140, section 4. Jeff McMorris, Matt Folsom, Devin Kurta, Josh Grote, Ashley Cloud. So we have any questions on that? 50 minutes total. No action.
Thank you. So we will then be going into closed session and executive session for those three items just discussed. And we will see everybody back for our 2 o'clock. We'll adjourn for the morning. Thank you.